Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everyone's morning been today? Is everyone good? Everyone's morning's been good? Alhamdulillah. Inshallah, carrying on from the reminder that we had in the morning where we spoke about being conscious of the state in which it is that we will die, and whether the reality of our hearts that will become apparent is going to be something good or bad. I wanted to carry on, inshallah ta'ala, from that discussion in the session. There is a long hadith in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he described the process from when the soul leaves the body until the angels come and question the soul inside of the grave. And I wanted to go through this hadith. Jabir ibn Abdullah radiyallahu anhuma, who is a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that on one particular day in the city of Medina there was a janazah. And I don't know if you have seen the graveyard just to the right of the masjid when we enter, but there the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was burying a man who was a Muslim from the Ansar. He was a Madani companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Medina. The Sahabi got placed inside of the grave, and as you know, the grave is built with something called a lahad, which is a small kind of indentation within the bottom of the grave. You guys probably haven't ever seen it, but that's where, inshallah, all of us, how we will all be placed inside of our grave. And Jabir said, we placed the man inside of the grave in that fashion. We put him inside that little indent, and then we buried him. And after we did that, he said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sat down next to the grave after burying the man. And all of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, they all sat around the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a twig in his hand. And with the twig he was scribbling something into the dirt. And the Sahaba were just there looking and gazing at him, wondering what it is that he's going to say, whilst not moving. Absolute calmness and stillness, such that Jabir said that if a that it was as if crows were on top of our head. Like a scarecrow. The reason why the birds, they come and sit on top of them is why? Why do the birds come and sit on top of these electric wires? Because they're still. So he's saying we were that still, just looking at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, waiting for him to speak, that it was as if birds were perched upon our heads. And suddenly the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke, and what he said was, seek refuge with Allah from the punishment of the grave. Seek refuge with Allah from the punishment of the grave. Until he repeated for the third time, seek refuge in Allah from the punishment of the grave. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam began to describe the moment of death for a righteous soul, for a believing soul. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there will be angels that will come and they will descend from the sky. Not one, but there will be a group of them. Their faces will be as white as the sun. And they have with them a shroud, a kafin, a cloth, in which they're going to put the soul. But this cloth, it has a very beautiful fragrance, a fragrance with the smell from Jannah. They will sit on either side of the dying person's body. The person who's dying can see this. Everyone else might be around him or her, but they cannot see that which the dying person sees. And Allah mentioned this in Surah Al-Waqi'ah. That Allah said, we are closer through the angels, as in the angels are closer to this person that's dying, closer than all of you, even though you're standing right next to the body. And at that time, the person's going, no matter how much you love them, you can't bring them back. Allah challenged the people. He called them. He said, stop the soul from leaving the body. If you're truthful, you don't believe there's going to be a next life, you think you're greater than Allah, stop at that time, stop the soul from leaving the body. In Surah Al-Qiyamah, Allah describes this moment. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ. It is said at the time of death, who is going to cure this person? Who's going to save this person from death? The person's on the hospital machine, you start to hear the flat line, you can hear it's almost coming. The machines, they start to make sound. So what happens? You call upon the doctor, you say, doctor, she's dying, please help. The doctor comes, they're trying to resuscitate her. Families out there saying, hold on. But the soul knows. وَظَنَّ أَنَّهُ الْفِرَاقِ. That it's time to go. No one can save me. My time for death has come. And then the main angel of death, the one we call Malakul Maut, he will come and he will place himself at the head of the dying person. And the angels that were on either side will slowly pull and move and nudge the soul up towards the top of the body. And the soul will come out in a very easy way, because this is a righteous soul. It knows where it's going. It sees these angels with these beautiful shining faces. It knows that I am going inshallah to Jannah, so it comes out of the body very easily. The Prophet ﷺ described it like water that's just being poured out of a jug. How easily would the drop of water come out of the jug? It just slides out because it wants to come. And then when the soul is near to the top of the head, the angel of death will say, "O you righteous soul, come out to the forgiveness and the pleasure of your Lord." And then the soul comes out. The angel of death doesn't even hold it for a second, and then he places it inside of that shroud. And once he places it inside of that shroud with the fragrance of Jannah, then the angel ascends into the heavens with that soul. And as the soul is being carried up to the top, the angels that see the righteous soul passing by, they call it by all of the lovely names that it was known on this earth. Sisters, if you were known as a righteous woman, the soul will be referred to by that through the angels. They will say, this is that righteous girl. If you are known as a girl who used to guard and protect her chastity and her modesty, the angels say, there goes that girl, that afifa, that righteous, chaste woman. If you're a woman who used to be truthful, they will say, there goes that sadiqah. If you're a woman who is known for her fasting, they'll say, there goes that woman who was sa'ima. She was a woman who used to fast. If you're a woman who used to stand the night in prayer, they will say, that goes that woman who was qawwama. She was standing the night in prayer. If you're a woman who is obedient to Allah, they will say, there goes that qanita, that obedient woman. And they'll remember you by the names that people used to speak about you and describe you in this earth. And then when the soul gets to the first heaven, and you know that there are 7, it will not be able to pass because the heavens are locked. So the angel will ask permission and say, I am with the soul and so. We need to seek permission to pass through, because this is a righteous soul. The angels will not deny entry. When a righteous person comes to your house, do you let them in? You invite them inside. So the angels will invite the soul in, and it will go from the first to the second to the third to the fourth, fifth, sixth, 7th heaven. And when it gets to the 7th heaven, Allah will say, write my slave in the Illiyin. What is the Illiyin? It is a special book. It is a special book. Write my servant in there. And then Allah will say, take my servant back down to the earth, because I created him or her from the earth, and I will bring her back out from inside of the earth. So the angels will gently, gently start to bring your soul back down towards the body. Now, the scene is going to change. As all of this is taking place, what is happening on earth with the body? The family are in shock. They are mourning the death. Your father, husband, brother are running around to the registrar to get your death certificate, so they can now bury you inside of your grave. Your body is being washed. You don't have the ability to even clean yourself. You're being cleaned by other than you. There are people inside. They're rubbing their hands through your fingers, your arms. They're washing you, cleaning the dirt from inside of you. Sometimes, has anyone washed a dead body before here? Just one person? Two? Sisters, I advise you to wash a dead body. Imam al-Muzani, who was one of Shafi'i's students, he said, I washed dead bodies for 14 years so it can soften my heart. Washing a dead body is an experience like no other. No matter how much you take care of yourself and you clean yourself and you beautify yourself, washing a dead body is a messy experience. Sometimes you push down on the stomach and things come out of the backside. It's the reality of the human being. So the body is being washed. And as the body is washed and the body is shrouded, at that time the soul, it comes on top of the body. At that time, the soul does what? It will come on top of the body. Once the body, has been taken inside of the grave and has been put inside of the grave, at that point, the soul will enter inside of the body. And when that happens, and this hadith doesn't mention it by the way, but I'm going to mention it to you anyway, the grave will squeeze you. And it doesn't matter whether you're righteous or not. The grave will take you. This is the fitna of the qabr. And you come from the dirt and you have to return back to it. Your ribs will cross over and even your veins will overlap each other. But like in a person who's righteous won't feel pain. It will be like a hug almost. Like in the person who's a wretched soul, they will scream. A scream that is going to be very violent. But we'll talk about the filthy soul in a second. So now, two angels will enter inside of the grave. And these two angels, by the way, they don't care whether you're a good person or a bad person. They speak to everyone in the exact same way. They don't talk to people in a nice way. They just came to do a job. They come to ask you, how many questions? 4. A lot of people don't know about the 4th question in the grave. And this hadith mentions it. They wake up the body, they shake it, they say, hey. They don't say, hey, but they ask, Man Rabbuk? Who is it that is your Lord? And the one who worshipped Allah alone and loved Allah more than anyone else, and his goals and her aspirations and intentions were for Allah, and she was certain about Allah, and she submitted to what Allah wanted, she accepted what Allah wanted, she disbelieved in everything other than Allah, only affirmed Allah. This soul will be able to say, my Lord is Allah. Then the angels will ask, Ma dinuk? What is your religion? Sisters, deen means way of life. Deen is way of life. What way of life do you live? We claim we live an Islamic way of life, but many of us don't. Many of us have adopted the way of life of other than Islam. For example, a fitna that a lot of sisters have been affected by is the fitna of feminism. The way of life of feminism is not an Islamic way of life. Feminism is the notion that women have rights that have to be found outside of religious doctrine. But like Allah already gave you all the rights that you have. No one's denying that women are oppressed, and we need to fight for the rights of our women, but we don't need to go to something that was created by men and women when Allah, who's perfect and knows you best, and said, Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Allah, He knows and you don't know. And He said, Ala ya'lamu man khalaq. Should I not know that which I created? Wa huwa al-latiful khabir. And He is very, very subtly informed about everything about you. And He knows best. And that's why He legislates in accordance to who you are. For men, He has some laws. For women, He has some laws. Men are told to do things that women are not allowed to do. And women are told to do things that men are not allowed to do. And there are times when women are preferred over the men. And there's many situations such as that. So Allah, through His justice and His divine wisdom and knowledge, He deals with each person individually based on how they are. A woman can't be treated like a man because they're not the same. And a man can't be treated like a woman because they're not the same. We understand we can't treat children like adults and adults like children, but we want to treat two completely distinct genders in the exact same way. And that doesn't make any sense. So a woman who lives a feminist lifestyle, her religion is feminism. A woman who lives a secular lifestyle, her religion is secularism. A woman who lives a lifestyle of drinking and fun and this, that, and men, that's her lifestyle. Music, her lifestyle. Netflix, that's her lifestyle. Be social media influence, that's her lifestyle. Those are her prophets. Those are her scholars. That's the sunnah she follows. She doesn't follow Aisha. She looks at the new makeup artist with the new makeup tutorial she brought out. That's her figures in her deen. That's her role models in her lifestyle. But like the one who her religion was Islam, which means to submit to Allah with tawheed and to free yourself from shirk and the people of shirk, then that person will be able to answer in the qabr. She will be able to say, Islam was my religion. The third question that will be asked inside of the grave: who is this man that was sent to you? And pay attention, if a person did not follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sisters, how will this woman ever be able to say Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is my messenger? I'm going to ask a question, yeah? We're going to give 100 riyal to the person who gets this question right, inshallah. Who can tell me 5 names of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of his lineage? And I even let you have Muhammad as the first one. So his name, then his father's name, then his father's name. Sister, wants to take a go? Go on. And you can't look it up. No one can look it up online. Go on. Was it you? Oh. Say that again, sorry? Okay, so let me rephrase the question. Saeed is another one of the Prophet ﷺ's names. But you know how we have a first name, second name, last name, middle name? What was the Prophet ﷺ's names like that? As in, not different names for Muhammad, but in terms of his lineage. Like for example, my name is Imran ibn Mansur ibn Saeed ibn Abdul Hakim. That's my name, right? You have a lineage. What's your name? You know your name. What is the Prophet's name? Sister, you put your hand up first.
Muhammad ibn Abi Talib Muttalib.
It's a mistake.
Hashim. I don't know.
You kind of are on the right track though, Allah barik.
Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abu Muttalib.
Ibn?
عبد المطلب.
Yeah.
ابن هاشم.
Mm-hmm.
ابن that's what I can go to.
She got 4.
محمد ابن عبد الله بن مطلب.
Say again?
محمد ابن عبد الله بن مطلب. ابن هاشم ابن مناف.
Ibn? No. But you're the closest. One last try. If not, I'm taking 100 riyal for myself. Anyone want to give it a go? Ibn Abd Manaf. The reason I'm doing this, sisters, is because I want to give us a reality check. If you don't even know the Prophet's name, can you say you know him? If you don't even know the name of the man, if we don't even know the name of the man, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, can we say we know his sunnah? It's like trying to say, I know the book, but I don't even know what the front cover is. Can I trust a man with what's inside of the book if I can't even trust him with the name? Sisters, I'm not doing this to put you down, but I'm doing this to wake you up so you start to take knowledge seriously. Learn who he is, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Sisters, wallahi, this man was the greatest man. And he's a man that if you study his life, you will not be able to help yourself except be indescribably in love with him. And his guidance, it will change your existence. And his sunnah will solve every problem you have in your life. Allah said in the Quran that the ones who truly believe, when they have disputes, they take it back to the Prophet ﷺ as the judge. Wallahi, the ones who have the Prophet as a judge in their life, their lives are the best. Their smiles are the biggest. Their hearts are the content. Human beings need guidance. Some of us, we didn't have guidance from our elders. We didn't have guidance from the community. Doesn't mean you have to be lost, because Allah gave you a man. And by the way, he was not a man just speaking from himself. Allah was the one communicating this to him. And we're in the city of the Prophet ﷺ. I was just thinking to myself earlier today, I was thinking, it doesn't make sense that we're in Medina and I'm not talking to you about the life of the Prophet ﷺ. But every time I come here, I don't get a chance to speak to those we bring to Umrah about the Prophet ﷺ, because they don't even know Allah, a lot of people. So I have to spend that time just talking about Allah, loving Allah, the names of Allah, the rights of Allah. Because that's the first part of the Shahada, right? And I'd love to be able to do a trip one time where we could just go through the life of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam from beginning to end. But we need to know Allah Azza wa Jal first, right? But inshallah today when we go to Uhud, we'll see a portion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life. So that's the third question that will be asked inside of the grave. Who is this man? And if you follow him and you don't do bid'ah and you take his guidance, inshallah you will be able to answer that question. And the fourth question that's inside of the grave, you'll be asked, what was your knowledge of it? What was your knowledge? And the person who had knowledge of the Quran will respond and say, I read the book of Allah, I believed in it, and I believed everything inside of it. But how can you believe what's inside of it if you don't know what's inside of it? You have to seek knowledge of it. You have to study the Quran. You have to study the Sunnah. So sisters, from this I want you to understand a fa'idah here. The righteous soul was only able to answer this question because this righteous soul was one who used to seek knowledge. We always talk about knowledge and the importance of knowledge, but it's because it has a connection to your grave. I mean, look, you can't expect to do any examination and pass without having ever opened a book, without having attended a class. So how is it that you want to go through the ultimate test, which has the ultimate prize, but you don't want to study? And I really want to drill this in your heads, my sisters. Have you ever opened up a book to learn about Allah? I mean, look, we've read Of Mice and Men, okay? How to Kill a Mockingbird. You all study these books, right? I mean, we're learning about Lenny and George. Who the heck? I say we know more about them, and it's not an exaggeration. I believe most people here, put your hand up if you studied Of Mice and Men. Most of you, right? More people here know about Lenny and George than they know about Yahya alayhi salam. You tell me, am I lying? Prophet of Allah. If I was to tell me what happened to Lenny and George, you'd be able to tell me more detail than if I told you what happened to Yahya. We have to study our deen. We have to really study our deen. We spent 17, 18, 19 years, school, college, uni. When are we going to take a break and say, let me take out 2-3 years for my religion? And then inshallah ta'ala, when the person in the grave answers these questions correctly, a caller will call and it will say, my slave was telling the truth. Now open for her or him Jannah. A person will see their place in Jannah when they're inside of the grave. A breeze from Jannah will come inside of the grave, and the person will be given clothing from Jannah, and a door from Jannah will be opened for him or her. And the grave will be widened, because the grave is a tight place and it will be made wide for you. And a good smell and fragrance from inside of Jannah, it opens for you and it comes to you. And then a person will come inside of the grave. And the person will say, glad tidings. This is the day that you used to be promised. She will say, who are you? Your face is the face of a person that will bring me lots of good. The person will say, I am your righteous deeds. Sisters, this is the one thing that you go and accompanies you inside of your grave. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, 3 things will follow you to your grave. Everything will come back, only one of the 3 will remain. The Prophet said, the first thing that comes is your family. And your family, it will leave. And then your money will follow you to your grave, and your money will leave. As a matter of fact, your family will probably start fighting over your inheritance before they even bury you. And then the third thing that comes to your grave with you, but it will not leave you, is your righteous deeds. Your good deeds will remain inside of your qabr with you. They will accompany you. And they will bring you lots of comfort. You know, I think it's important to reflect. You know, we are people that lose ourselves for relationships of other people. And we're so engulfed in trying to seek other people's approval because we're so insecure ourselves that we really sacrifice our own mental, emotional, spiritual well-being to make people happy. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a person just like you, I'm tested with the same stuff. But if I could give you an advice, and it is to, the way that you really don't care what people say or what they think of you, is when you imagine and you picture the way the closest and most beloved people to you will be after you die. And the reality is that they will forget about you. They will, I was with Abu Bakr last night, and he mentioned something to me. There was a brother called Ahmed, may Allah have mercy on him, who died 5 years ago. And I haven't heard his name for years, for a very long time. And he mentioned him to me the other day. So just yesterday. What was the name of that brother who died? Because he didn't know him very well, but I did. And he was a very close brother to me. At the time he was dying, and when he died, we were all emotional, we went to the grave. Years have gone by, I haven't even mentioned his name. Am I a bad person for doing that? No. But that's life. You move on. People forget about you, you forget about them. In fact, before they even bury you, your own husband, your own parents, your own children, they will refer to you as the body. You have a name. Your name may be Aisha. Your name may be mother. Your name may be wife. Your children will say, have you brought the body? Have you thought about that for a second? Your name is gone. They can't even call you. You can't say, have you brought mum? I've seen it. I've been at graveyards. Have you brought the body? And that's literally all you are to them. So why is it that you invest so much in these relationships and pleasing people, but not in Allah? Whilst you're being called the body, the angels in the heavens are calling you the believer, the righteous one. But you spent so much time trying to build reputation with them that you ignored it with those angels, and that's why they don't have much to say to you except to describe you with bad ways. And then that soul will wait until the day of judgment, and on the day of judgment it will have a good place to go, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. I want to take you to the day of judgment. I want you to imagine yourself opening your book of deeds and getting disappointed as you scroll over the pages, realizing that there's not a lot here. In fact, as you turn over the pages, you see there's quite a bit of sin. And the good deeds don't really match up to what they should have. But suddenly as you turn over the pages, you start to see all of these good deeds, like memorizing Quran, seeking knowledge, praying the night prayer. But you're thinking to yourself, hold up, I never memorized the Quran. I didn't used to do all of these extra deeds, like pray the night prayer on a consistent basis. How is it in my book of deeds when I never personally did it? And then it becomes clear to you that this is in your book of deeds because there was a person who you helped to guide towards al-Islam. And when they came to Islam and changed their life, you now received all of the good that they did, even though you didn't personally do it yourself. As you know, الدال إلى الخير كفاعله. The one who guides someone to do good will have the reward of that good the way the person who did it, even if you yourself didn't do it. And this is why it's so important, brothers and sisters, for us to support people when it comes to helping change their life. Now, as you know, this is the work that me and my team are involved in. With the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal, we've been changing people's lives for the last few years. And we've got many projects from maintaining a masjid to Knowledge College. But the one project that we've seen that's changed people's life above and beyond anything else that we've seen with Allah's permission is our Umrah trips. We take people who are literally off the streets, involved in drugs, violence, just come out of prison, soon maybe possibly go into prison, all different backgrounds. We take them on these Umrah trips, and there Allah Azza wa Jal transforms their hearts, puts light inside of them, and they come back reformed men. An example of one such brother who we took, he actually came back, and within one space of a year, he took 70 people from his area, from the streets into the masjid. Some of them came onto Deen hard, some of them not as much as others, but he impacted his local community. And he himself has now gone on to seek knowledge, memorize Quran, learn the Arabic language, and he's actively involved in khair. Now this brother wasn't able to fund his whole package. He was funded for by someone generous, someone like you. And they probably had no idea that they were going to pay for this brother's ticket, that he was going to be impacted so much on the trip that when he came back, he was going to help get 70 people from his area into the masjid from streets. Now imagine that person who gave money for that trip, what reward they're going to see in the Day of Judgment. And that's one. We've taken over 150 people in just over a year. And now this November, we're taking our biggest group yet, 60 plus people. And these are the brothers who are in most need. 17 of them were taken absolutely free, because they can't afford the trip themselves, either they don't have the money or their money is haram. But they want to change. Do you want the reward for them changing? If so, then go to the link below, because we have to fundraise for 10 of them in the next 7 days. We have to fundraise for 10 of them in the next 7 days. Someone's definitely going to give that money, inshallah, and take that reward. Is it going to be you? That's the question. And inshallah, you'll see that reward in the Day of Judgment. So I advise you, for the sake of Allah, go to the link below, say Bismillah, donate whatever you can. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.